Welcome to December. Welcome to Advent. We are in the time of preparing, of waiting, of hoping, and getting ready to celebrate again the birth of Jesus, but also of preparing and hoping and waiting for when he comes again. This is a busy time for many of us. My Franciscan Sisters of Christian Charity in the craft room have been preparing for months already. They found in the back of the cupboard some forgotten material to make cloth Christmas cribs. And once they started making them, they started flying off the shelves. So we have the sheep and we have Mary and Joseph. We have the baby Jesus. He's not in the crib yet because we're waiting. And we've got the shepherds and the kings are over there. We're waiting and preparing and celebrating. And there's something about these cloth, beautiful, soft, stuffed Christmas cribs that are sewn by our sisters and put together that many parents and grandparents want to give their children or their grandchildren because it's important that we have something physical, because we have a physical God who came among us as a child. But where did this tradition of the Christmas crib begin? Where did it come from? It's a wonderful gift from our patron, St. Francis. St. Francis of Assisi was on his way back from Rome, true story, from meeting with the Pope back in the 1200s to have his rule approved, to be able to follow the way of the gospel for his friars and all of us, his followers, who continued on. He was about 2 weeks, it was about 2 weeks from Christmas, and he stopped at a town called Grecchio, where his friars were ministering. It was in 1223, and Brother Thomas Celano, a contemporary and early biographer of Francis, says that Francis met with a friend from the town, Giovanni, and asked him to help in preparing a special kind of celebration for the coming of Jesus at Christmas. To understand this, it is important to know that Francis, like many of us, but perhaps even more than most, had a profound and tender love for the feast of Christmas. His heart melted with love at the thought of the little child born in a stable. Francis asked Giovanni to bring live animals and hay to a cave outside the town and to have a young couple take the place of Mary and Joseph. He wanted to show the people of the town and his own brothers the physical conditions of Jesus's birth. He wanted people to be able to experience what it was like for the Son of God to be born in a stable, surrounded by an ox, donkey, straw, and cold. Francis and his brothers and the people of Grecchio gathered in the cave Christmas Eve and around the cave, lighting up the night with torches, singing hymns, with the priest presiding mass at an altar arranged over the manger. Francis himself, a deacon, sang the gospel with his heart in a beautiful voice and preached, filled with emotion. Thomas wrote that it seemed as if the infant Jesus, long forgotten in the hearts of many people, came to life again that night. And all creation, the trees, the stones, the surrounding mountainside, echoed the praises sung by the people. Grecchio became a new Bethlehem. This simple kind of nativity scene was destined to be spread by Franciscans throughout the world as they moved out from Assisi in the following centuries. It is now a familiar feature of Christmas celebrations throughout our world. Though it has suffered its share of commercialism, and its significance has sometimes become purely sentimental at its origins, the nativity scene was a striking affirmation of God's entry into the mundane, everyday life of poor people, the world of creatures, the world of straw and rocks and cold. What impressed Francis so deeply about the feast of Christ's birth was the simplicity, humility, and poverty. In many ways, Christmas helped form Francis's notion of who God is. Christmas Eve depicts a choice. The divine word chooses poverty voluntarily as a form of life, together with Mary and Joseph. Our God is a physical God in the real world who honored simplicity, exalted poverty, and commended humility. This triad of simplicity, poverty, and humility were, for Francis, hallmarks of the whole life of Jesus, a life he wished to follow. It is the same triad that characterizes the celebration of every Eucharist. Every time the Mass is celebrated, we see the choice of the incarnation, Jesus becoming a human being, reaffirmed. St. Francis wrote in his own words, "The Lord of the universe, God, the Son of God, so humbles himself that for our salvation, he comes to us under the little form of bread. Humble yourselves as well, that you may be exalted by him." It is my prayer that each of us enter into this Christmas time of celebrating the vulnerability of Jesus's birth and the simplicity and poverty of his presence with us in the Eucharist and in those among us in desperate need. And that we do this with a renewed heart, and that this become part of our prayer every time we look and see the Christmas crib displayed. May we recognize the free gift of Jesus living with us in the challenges, sufferings, and joys of this time. And may we be lights in the darkness of the world. For God is with us. Happy Advent and soon to be Merry Christmas.